NetsBoy, so let's hear what he has to say. His name is NetsBoy, he thinks the world is all over when the Nets just can't play.
Welcome back, everyone. NetsBoy here, bring your latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. So, you like the new intro? What do you think? And I decided to change things up a little bit. New season of NetsBoy. New beginning for this Nets team. And so I decided to do a new intro. And I'm also excited to announce that NetsBoy finally has a new setup and editing equipment that he's using. Woo! Finally! No more lag, no more freezing, no more technical difficulties. I'm going to be honest, I really had no choice at this point. I was trying to do some episodes the last couple of weeks, and every time I tried, my old obsolete system just kept crashing and having errors. And that the old computer and recording programs I was using is like 15 years old, so I'm surprised it lasted this long. NetsBoy finally upgraded, so here we are, new program, new everything, new start, new fresh beginning. So we have a lot to discuss and talk about because the NBA season is right around the corner. It's just, I believe, 4 days away on October 25th. So we have a lot to discuss. So let's dive right in. So, in this episode, we're going to look at my preseason expectations and predictions of what I think will happen with this Brooklyn Nets team for the 2023 and 24 season. Now, historically, I am usually very off and very wrong with all my expectations and predictions. And usually, everything ends with me being very disappointed and frustrated. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of think that this season is going to be the same thing because looking at this Nets team and looking at everything that's happening surrounding the team and all, there's just loads of question marks. There really are. There's a loads of I don't know. So I mean, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to base everything off of the offseason moves that they made, the people they drafted to the people they signed to what we've seen from Ben the Useless Simmons in preseason, because we've seen a lot of interesting things from him, and just overall my takeaway and hopes of how I think this team's going to develop and mesh. So that's what this episode is going to be about. So I guess I'll start off and try to figure it out. Let's start off with discussing some of the offseason moves they made via free agency. I'm not really going to touch too much on the rookies that they drafted because I do remember, even though it was months ago, that I talked about, Tariq Whitehead, Noah Clowney, and Jalen Wilson in my last Nets Boy episode because it was after the draft. And I believe at that point the Nets had made some free agent signings, but I'm going to focus more now on talking about those free agent signings. Starting off with Lonnie Walker the fourth. Now, Lonnie Walker the fourth is your honestly stereotypical combo guard wing player scorer. I mean, he's a 3-level scorer. He can slash to the basket, he can make the mid-range shot, and he can make the 3-point shot. And he's somebody who I think is really going to fit in well with this Nets team and really help, especially in the second unit. We saw him last year in the game 4 of the Western Conference Finals, scored 12 points in the fourth quarter and help the Lakers win that game. And so he's someone who's proven that he can handle the moment, that he can rise up to the occasion. And, that's someone this Nets team needs. I just like him. I think from what I've seen in preseason, he's got a lot of confidence. And like I said, he can score at all 3 levels. And I kind of see him as a possible 6-man type of person, type of player, someone who can come off the bench, provide you with scoring maybe 14, 16 points a game, and just be kind of a spark plug. And you always need those players. So, he's just a great signing. And he's a relatively young guy, 26, 27 years old, loads of upside. And I think he's really could be a key piece for this Nets team. So really love the signing. And I really think highly of him. And pretty shocked by it, to be honest, because I don't think anyone really thought Lonnie Walker was going to leave the Lakers and a chance to win a championship for the Nets. That's clearly a rebuilding team, but he obviously believes in himself, and maybe he'll be rewarded, and the Nets will be rewarded for giving him a shot. So really like the signing of Lonnie Walker the fourth. Another free agent that they brought in is Dennis Smith Jr. Now Dennis Smith Jr. is one of the best on the ball defenders in the league. Very underrated when it comes to his overall playmaking ability. I think so. I think he's a very good playmaker, but his whole calling is his defense. He averaged almost 2 steals a game, I think, last season, if not maybe more. He's just very good with his, anticipation of the passes and getting in the lanes, and he's just a really gritty player. And you can never have enough of those players on a team. So he's more of a defensive first player, but he's also a playmaker. He's also a slasher, and he's somebody who I feel like could be a guy who could come off the bench and provide quality minutes with the second unit, playmaking and just being energy. And that's what I get from him. I don't know if he's going to be in the rotation to start. He might be, but I think he can easily crack it. And I think that he brings that toughness and that defensive mindset that this Nets team obviously is going to be banking a lot on based off of the personnel of the team. So he's a perfect fit. And as I said before, he's another young guy. I believe he's 25. So there's loads of potential there to continue to develop, and another really great fit. So I really like him as well. In addition to that, then the Nets made some other type of free agent signings that are a little less known, but still could be impactful. I'll start off with Harry Giles III, a guy who got an invite to try to make the team. Sounds like he's going to make the team. Right now, he's the third string center for this team. And, we haven't seen a lot of him, but in the preseason, he looked pretty good. He looked like someone who can run the floor, can get some rebounds, and is a lob threat. He's someone that has had loads of potential and upside, but has been hurt throughout most of his career, his brief career. I think this is only his fourth year in the league, and he's just been hurt constantly, and just hasn't been able to get any consistent playing time. So this is an opportunity for him if he stays healthy. He won't be in the rotation to start, but I do think that he's going to be a good depth piece. And the one thing about this Nets team is they still, in my opinion, did not address their lack of size. They didn't. He was the only center that they brought in via free agency. They still have Nick Claxton. They still have Daron Sharp. But after that, it's Harry Giles III. And then I guess maybe Noah Clowney, but he's a rookie, and I think he is very raw and needs time to develop in the G League before he will make an impact. So I think Harry Giles III is going to be a very key piece to this Nets team. And then finally, the last player they brought in is Trendon Warford. Now, I don't know much about him. I saw him playing preseason. It was between him and Darius Baisley for the final spot, and the Nets chose Warford. What does that mean? I don't know. But maybe Trendon Warford could end up being one of the better players on this Nets team by the end of the season. I seem to recall 6 or 7 years ago saying, I don't know who this Joe Harris guy is, but whatever, he's on the team. And sure enough, Joe Harris became one of the best shooters in the league. So you never know. And that's the point. Young players with loads of upside. So Nets brought him in. He's supposed to be a versatile wing player, can hit a floater. I don't know. At this point, I'm trusting Sean Marks because I don't know. So he's someone else the Nets brought in. They did sign Armani Brooks with one of their two-way contracts. And let me tell you something about Armani Brooks. I love this guy. I'm sorry. I watched all the summer league and the preseason, and mostly the summer league. He was incredible. This guy can shoot. This guy has confidence. This guy has swagger. He's not afraid of taking a big shot. Like, I love this guy. I mean, I actually really do believe Armani Brooks is going to play a big factor eventually for this Nets team. I think at some point, whether it's via injuries or trades or something else, Armani Brooks is going to get an opportunity, and I think he's going to shine. He's just an unbelievable three-point shooter. And just watch his performance in the summer league this year, and you see why the Nets brought him in. He wasn't even on the Nets' radar as someone who people thought, or people's radar, that they thought the Nets were going to get. But he was on the summer league team and played so well that he made a roster spot and got a two-way contract. And I like him a lot. His three shooting is unbelievable. I mean, he's got just loads of confidence, and I do believe that he might actually be someone that could help this team out down the road. So those are the main free agents that the Nets brought in. Those are the guys that I feel like have the biggest chance to make an impact on this team. And we'll see. I mean, you never know. This team is deep this year, and that's a good thing. And so I guess we'll have to wait and figure out what exactly is going to happen. But now let's actually talk about what I saw during the preseason and address some of the things that I had noticed with this team. Obviously, preseason is preseason. Okay, that's no one really cares. The Nets went 2-2, blah 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 blah. But there was a couple key things. Well, really one major key thing that had to be looked at and had to be addressed. It has to be addressed with preseason, and that is the elephant in the room. Ben, the useless Simmons. He looked pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. He looked confident. He was driving to the basket, not shying away from contact, making tough layups, getting to the foul line, willing to take free throws. He was playmaking. He was making the right plays. He even took a 15-foot jump shot. He missed it awfully, like it wasn't even close, but he took it. And I'm like, what? Did I just see that? And then, if I remember correctly, there was 2 times he posted up and did a post-up fadeaway. What? Ben Simmons did a fadeaway jump shot, and guess what? He made him. Both of them. Look, I don't want to get ahead of myself. It's preseason, but I am super, super pleased from what I saw from Ben Simmons. And I guess we have to believe him, right? He said during media day that he was a shell of himself last year because of his back. He said no one understood how the pain he was dealing with on a regular basis every day. He just couldn't do the things physically he wanted to do, and that ruined his confidence. And this year, he says he's fully healthy, his back feels great, and he's back feeling like he can do what he wants to do. And right now, we've kind of seen it. I mean, if Ben Simmons plays the way he played in the preseason, I'm not going to be bold and say the Nets are going to be like a top-notch team because they're not. But they certainly have a chance to make some noise and maybe make it as high as like the 6th seed. And that's a possibility with this Nets team. And, I'm going to touch upon it before the end of the episode where I actually think this Nets team will finish. But if Ben Simmons plays the way he played in the preseason and gets back to being the old Ben Simmons, this Nets team could become the 6th seed. So I've just been pleased. And, I hate to say it, and I hate to all of a sudden get very negative and pessimistic here, but I really have a bad feeling that Ben Simmons is going to start off the season playing really, really well. Like the first 15 games, he's going to average like 14 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds, play great defense, be the floor general, and the Nets are going to be starting off pretty well, maybe something like 10-5 the first 15 games, something crazy like that, right? Because Ben Simmons is playing so well. And then he's going to get hurt. And it's all going to be over again. Because that's what happens to the Nets. And that's what happens to Ben Simmons. The guy has a history of injuries. So why would we expect anything else? And why should we expect the Nets to actually benefit from something, right? They finally got Ben Simmons to play the way that the expectations are, and he's going to get hurt. I don't want to jinx it, knocking on wood, but I'm sorry. That's where my mind goes, and that's what I unfortunately think is going to happen. But as for now, really pleased with what we see from Ben Simmons, and I really think it's going to make this Nets team so much better. So pretty pleased about that. The other few takeaways I took from this Nets team was just that they're going to go through some stretches of scoring droughts again. Just like they did in the playoffs last year against the 76ers, there's just not enough consistent offense. But that's why, what about Cam Thomas? Stop it with this guy, all right? Stop it. Look, he looked okay in preseason. All right. I've been very critical of Cam Thomas. All right. I know there's a lot of people out there who are critical of people being critical, but guess what? I'm critical of the people being critical of me being critical. Yeah. Got it. Because the reality is, Cam Thomas is not a winning basketball player. He doesn't make your team better. He doesn't do anything on the court other than score. But as great as he is at that, I mean, there's a reason why when he dropped 40 points 3 consecutive games, the Nets lost all three. It's because that doesn't always help you win. So he can score. That's great. It's the NBA. 70% of the players can score. I just I'm not sold on him. And I don't think I ever really will be until he learns how to play within the offense. I will give him some credit. It looks like he's trying. It looks like the coaching staff and Jock Vaughn has kind of spoken to him because in preseason he was a little bit more selective of his shots, a little bit more taking what the defense was giving him, a little bit more willing to play make. But he's still a black hole because that's what he is. He gets the ball, he dribbles around in circles and takes a contested jump shot in which 50% of the time he'll make. And as impressive as it looks, that's not good winning basketball. So I still don't know what to expect from him. I still believe the best role for Cam Thomas is to come off the bench and be instant offense as like a sixth man. But I just kind of touched upon earlier that I think Lonnie Walker the fourth kind of fits that role too. So the way I look at this, if I'm the Nets, if I'm Sean Marks, I'm obviously seeing if Cam Thomas can continue to develop, but I kind of think he should be traded. I really do. And I think that, he's somebody that if you package up with another contract, like a Spencer Dinwiddie, which I really, really like Spencer Dinwiddie, but he's got an expiring contract this season. So I kind of think he might get traded. You package him, you might be able to bring in a really solid piece. I don't know. Just food for thought. I just am not sold on Cam Thomas. I know he can score, but he doesn't help the Nets in any other way, and he doesn't really help the Nets win. So that's my take on him. And going back to my point, the Nets don't have a lot of offense. All right. Mikal Bridges is going to be the main focus on the offensive end. Cam Johnson's going to get a lot of opportunities to score. Dinwiddie seems like he's going to adapt to this off the ball shooting and then maybe run the second unit as the point guard role, which I kind of like. And obviously, they're going to get perimeter scoring from Royce O'Neal and Lonnie Walker the fourth and so on and so forth. But the reality is, and Dorian Finney-Smith, they're going to have moments where this team's just not going to be able to score. But that's okay because the main focus and calling card, I believe, of this Nets team will be their defense. They have loads of length, loads of athleticism, loads of players who can switch 1 through 5, being led by Nick Claxton. And I think that's kind of the way Jock Vaughn's going to try to play. He wants to push the tempo, run up and down the court, get transition baskets, and play great switching 1 through 5 defense. And he does have the personnel for it. You think about the starting lineup: Ben Simmons, Spencer Dinwiddie, Mikal Bridges, probably Cam Johnson, and Nick Claxton. Those are all good plus defenders that are going to be able to switch onto anybody. And I feel like that's going to be the key with this Nets team. Then you got Dennis Smith Jr. coming off the bench, Dorian Finney-Smith and Royce O'Neal all coming off the bench, defensive-minded players. I think this Nets team is going to be a very good defensive team. The biggest problem is I still also see them struggling on the boards. They didn't do anything to really address that. I know Daron Sharp is going to be the main backup center. That's the expectation. He's a good rebounder. He's not a great rebounder. They still are going to get beaten up on the boards anytime they play any of these bigs like Steven Adams or Vucevic, who are great offensive board guys. Nets are going to get destroyed. So I still feel like they have similar issues of last year. Their lack of size, getting beat up on the boards, and going to struggle offensively. But I do think that they're going to be a much better team defensively, and that's going to be their calling card. And hopefully their defense is going to keep them in enough games to shock some people and have a pretty productive season. So that's my takeaway from what I've seen in the preseason. Ben Simmons looks sharp, looks good. Cam Thomas has his moments, still not sold on him. But overall, this team is going to be focused on its defense and pushing the tempo and running the floor. Now, let's get to the final part of this episode and the main thing. my final prediction for the Brooklyn Nets 2023-24 season. But before I talk about that, I do want to share with you my bold prediction for the Brooklyn Nets. Now, every year, NetsBoy has some cockamamie bold prediction that he magically believes is going to happen. And every year, it doesn't. But this year, I'm going to wish it into existence because it is so bold. I don't think there's a single person out there who has the belief that this is possible. Nets boys, bold, and I mean bold prediction is that the Brooklyn Nets will be the first ever in-season tournament champions. That is right. As we know, this is the first year of that in-season tournament, which really starts like the third game of the year with the group play, and that whole new thing. Which listen, I'm not going to go into whether or not I think this whole tournament thing in the beginning of the season is good or bad. It's all beside the point. But the Nets are in a very winnable group. They're in with the Magic, the Bulls, the Raptors, and the Celtics. Now, with the Celtics, we know they're on a whole other level, right? They're going to be competing with the Bucks for the 1 and 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, right? They're clearly better. But those other teams, the other three teams, I feel like the Nets are just as good, if not better than. Like I feel like the Bulls are the only team that I feel like is at the level of the Nets. I think the Nets are better than the Raptors and the Magic. And so I really think that, especially early on in the season, when they play these teams in the pool play, the Nets may be able to win 3 out of the 4 games and make it to the knockout round. And then in the knockout round, anything can happen. And I think there's going to be a lot of championship caliber teams like the Celtics that aren't going to take it that seriously because their focus is the real NBA finals. And I think a team like the Nets that are going to play really, really hard and really, really aggressive and want to prove themselves, I think they might shock people. So there it is. Nets boys' bold prediction is that the Nets are going to be the first ever in-season tournament champions. And the cool part is we can actually see if this bold prediction is going to happen relatively early on because the in-season tournament is in the first month, like the end of November. So that's pretty cool. So that's my bold prediction. I don't know if it's going to happen. It probably won't, but I just feel like if not a team like the Nets, I think there's going to be some team that people aren't going to expect to win the whole thing because I just the way I get the feel of it. So that's my bold prediction. There. So now let me tell you my final prediction on what I think is going to happen with this Nets team. I know Las Vegas has the over-under on their wins 37 and a half. So that's the expectation for the bettors. And I honestly kind of agree with that expectation. I'm going to be more optimistic. I think the Nets are going to be closer to 500, maybe 40 and 42, maybe 41 and 41. I like to give myself a small range. I do think the Nets are going to be over 38 wins. I don't think they're going to be under 37 and a half. I don't. I think they're going to be from 38 wins to 42 wins. And, that gives a 6-win window. A 6-win, no, that's a 4-win window. What am I saying? I can do math, everyone. A 4-win window from 38 to 42. That's what I think is the range that this Nets team is going to be. So let's just say 41 and 41 or 40 and 42. So right around 500 is what I expect from this Nets team. I really don't think they're going to be worse than that they did last year, which were a couple games under 500. I think they're going to actually be better. I just think a 500 team is what I would expect. So I expect the Nets to go, we'll say 41 and 41, be in the play-in as the 8th seed, compete, maybe make the 7th or 8th seed. I do expect them to make the playoffs, but be in that play-in range. And they'll probably lose in the first round to either the Celtics or the Bucks, and probably in 5 games. That is what I'm predicting in the end of the season for this Nets team. And you know what? I would take that. with everything that's happened, as long as the Nets are competitive this year, they're not an embarrassment. We see opportunities and growth from the young guys. I I'll take that. Now, I will say this: if Ben Simmons plays the way he could play and becomes the old Ben Simmons, and Mikal Bridges becomes a true go-to scorer and a guy who averages 25 a game, and Cam Johnson stays healthy, and Nick Claxton continues to develop and becomes a defensive player of the year candidate. And all these pieces that the Nets brought in fit into a good role. And Cam Thomas figures out how to be a help to the Nets team, not just a bucket scorer. All these things happen, and the Nets play great defense. I do think it's possible that the Nets could end up winning close to 45 games and be like the sixth seed in the East. I do. I think that's possible. I see that as a possible floor. Possible ceiling. I think their ceiling is that 45 win mark, fifth or sixth seed in the East. I think more logically they're going to be, like I said, 500 and be in the play-in, but I see a possible ceiling for that. And if that's the case, I'll be ecstatic. But the reality is, I don't expect all those things to happen. And I just expect them to be a competitive and fun team, which at the end of the day, that's all I want at this point with this Nets team. So now, let's wrap up this episode that's gone way too long by quickly looking at the first few games for the Nets. They start off the season against the Cavs, Mavs, Hornets, and then Heat before they have a very important game against the Bulls because that's the first game of group play for the play-in tournament. So right off the bat, not an easy stretch. I see the Nets going 1-3 the first four games, leading up to that Bulls game. I think really the Hornets are the only team that I feel like the Nets should beat. They could beat all those teams. I mean, there's not one team that I feel like the Nets couldn't beat, but the reality is, on paper, the Hornets are the only team the Nets are better than. So I'm going to expect a 1-3 start for this Nets team. I will obviously take 2-2. I don't think they'll be better than that, but you never know because, like I said, Ben Simmons plays really well. Who knows? So a 1-3 start going into the pivotal, important game against the Bulls for group play. So there you have it. That's everything. Let's wrap up this episode. Thank you all so much for bearing with me. Hope you enjoyed the new intro. Hope you liked some of the little editing things I did. Hopefully there'll be some better videos as time goes on and I learn the equipment and maybe get another microphone. So things might get better. So let me know what you guys think about everything. Comment below what you like, subscribe. Just do your thing, everyone. Thanks so much. And my next NetsBoy episode will probably be in a couple weeks after the beginning of the season, and we get to see this Nets team full in action. So keep your eyes open to that. And until then, this is NetsBoy. Excited to be back and excited for the new season and excited for Wednesday night. And signing off.